Do not adjust your wig, or should you?
Welcome back to the basement. Last episode we did sort of like an experimental tank tested episode. We did it with a plain old braid soft boom. We only did it with one size hook, which was a number 4 mugga. We did it with bottom baked, wafter, and pop-ups. Now we could have expanded on that and gone with an artificial single corn. We could have showed real corn, but we'll just leave it at that for now. And I'm hoping to showcase a different rig every episode. For this week, we're going to do a combi rig, which is a stiff boom. You can make it out of mono, you can make it out of fluorocarbon, and a little braid loop about 1.5 inches long onto the hook. So you've got a stiff boom and you've got a flexible end of it. And that's called a combi. Now there's also a reverse combi where you can use a soft braid boom and a little stiff boom onto your hook, which connects onto your braid. But I'm thinking that'll be another episode. For right now, again, do we want to go through making the rig? There's enough videos on YouTube showing how to make the rigs, and actually we did loop-to-loop rig last year, so I don't think we have to go through it again, but I'll just go through what I have here on my hands. What I have here is a 4-inch stiff mono, I think it's quarter boom, crimped on both ends to make a little loop. And then this is my combi link, which is soft braid looped onto my stiff hook link, which again makes it a combi link. So your stiff boom will be for kicking away from your lead, and then the soft boom, it should be flexible enough for him to inhale it, and hopefully while he's spitting it out, the tip of the point will find its home. So here I've got a number 8, a number 4, and a number 6. So we'll try different baits on the different size hooks. The reason I'm doing that is that a bigger hook will be your counterweight and will probably help balance your different presentations. All the way down to, we'll see how much a number 8 hook counterweights your presentation, and how they each could be, let's say, tailored to adapt to the situation. We'll start with the number 4. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a bottom bait on it, which is one of our favorites, our homemade hardened hook baits. Maybe we should put this onto a leader. I've got a regular lead clip here with about 2 feet of lead core. So let's put it onto there. There we go. Now all we need is a weight on there. My most popular weights, 4 ounces. Usually works very well for me anywhere. Okay, there you go. Into the tank we go. In she goes. Okay, right away, I see my hook is sitting on the bottom. My bait is on the bottom, which is what it's supposed to do. The lead core, it's sitting on the bottom. Now, I'm not too worried about my lead core sitting on the bottom, because most of the time I'm using a tight line. So a tight line is going to keep that lead core off the bottom. That's why a lot of times I don't bother using lead core. I just use 100-pound braid Power Pro, actually. It seems to have a lot more strength than a lot of the lead cores I've used. We'll just leave it at that.
Sitting a little weird.
It is sitting weird, isn't it? So now what happens when a fish swims by to check it out? Doesn't move much. Still sitting weird. Now if I had pulled this back a little bit, still sitting weird. Okay, so now I don't like it And I imagine that's the way I've been using it. Okay, now this is the way it should sit. But actually, we haven't got that option. When we cast out and it hits the bottom, we just presume it's sitting pretty. Can't always presume. So yeah, that's sitting all right. I can probably use a little bit of shot on the boom. Let's try that. My tiniest little clamp shot. I'll put that halfway up the boom for now. Drop number 2. That little shot ain't pinning that boom to the bottom. I think it's got something to do with the way the lead clip is sitting. Now maybe if I had a swivel on my lead, would it make a difference? So I notice a lot of the name brand weights, they do have swivels on their sinkers, which I figured I never needed. Well, just out of argument's sake, let's put a sinker on with a swivel and see if she sits differently. I don't mind the way the hook is sitting. Now that little boom is still sitting up. I'm not too worried about it. So now, let's try it on a helicopter. Helicopter rig with a combi link and a bottom bait. In she goes. Now I love the way that's sit. Out the whole hook link, everything is on the bottom. It is a bottom bait. That's what I was expecting it to do. Let's do it again. Let's do it 3 times just to see if it holds every time. There you go. It's sitting in the back. Don't need a swivel on my sinker on a helicopter rig. And my hook link is on the bottom. Now let's try that again. One more time. Okay, cast. Down she goes. Now the bottom bait is right next to the sinker. But you know what? I ain't got no problem with that. I ain't got no problem with that. Now if I pulled it back a tiny bit, there you go. Everything straightens out. I'm all good with that. The lead core, well, we know the lead core will lay on the bottom, but like I said, if I'm running a tight line, my leader line is never on the bottom, no matter what I'm using. Lead core, lead free, braid. I got a tight line. It's not laying on the bottom. A tight line will lay like this. And especially a lot of the areas that I fish, I'm fishing off a high wall. And my line's going in the water like even more than a 45-degree angle. So this is the way my line is going to hold. So does it make a difference? I don't think so. So okay, so that's with a number 4 hook. Now we know if we went with a number 6 or a number 8, the bottom bait would still lay on the bottom and the hook would still lay on the bottom. So I don't think we have to change the hook right now until we start using something more buoyant, like a wafter or a pop-up. So we'll get rid of the bottom bait, and now let's go with a wafter. Pineapple, banana, dynamite bait. Okay, on a helicopter rig, wafter on a number 4 hook, on a combi link. Test number 1. It's obvious that the number 4 hook is balancing out that little wafter just fine. Sitting close to the bottom. Now it could have something to do with that little ring swivel too, that's adding a little counterbalance. I like the way that's sitting. That's drop number 1. Drop number 2. Same thing. Drop number 3. I like the way that's sitting. Fish swimming by. Where's that rig going to go? Well, it's sitting funny now, but I got a feeling once a fish inhales, that hook is going to be lying pretty. So that's the wafter. Now what I want to find out here, the number 4 hook is balancing out wafter just fine. Let's see what happens with the number 6 hook. And it's a much longer hook length. Okay, now that's sitting on the side of the tank, so we can't really count that one. I'll pull it back a bit and see what it's sinking. Okay, so now we know the number 6 hook is sinking that wafter just fine. I ain't got no problem with that at all. It's just on the verge of floating. And as soon as the fish inhales that hook's going to find the bottom lip. I ain't got no problem with that. So, okay, number 6 drops just fine, but it's just on the verge of floating. So, like I said, I would call that a critically balanced hook bait. Now again, like we talked about earlier, critically balanced looks great, but every time you got a little bit of current in the water, a fish swims by, that's going to move around all over the place. Now, if a fish wants it that bad, he'll find it. Now, if he can zero in on it and get it on the first inhale, you know that's going to be neutral buoyancy, and that should shoot to the back of his throat really quick. And when he goes to spit it, yeah, I like the way my hook is sitting. So now that I see that with a number 6, I'm thinking to myself, a number 8 is not going to balance that by the weight of the hook. We're going to find out. Okay, so it's on the lead clip. Test number 1 with a number 8 hook with a wafter. And that's exactly what I thought it'd be doing. So now with a soft boom, with a number 8 hook, in my pack bait, it would jump back up once it releases from the pack bait. If I wanted to go that way, I would be wise to put a little shot on my boom. Onto the soft section of the boom, and that'll balance it out. There you go. Now it's behaving a lot like a pop-up. Just when I thought my wafters were sitting a lot closer to the bottom, there's so many other variables to consider. Now another thing I'm thinking of right now, what if I had a bait screw inside that wafter? Would it be enough to balance out that wafter? Just out of curiosity, let's try something here. Okay, that's sitting pretty. Again. Yeah, I'm liking that. So it just goes to show, when I had it on the hair, without the bait screw, there was no counterweight there. I put the bait screw on, and that's just enough weight to balance that wafter. And you know what? I prefer it sitting like that on the bottom than having it an inch up. If I want something to sit an inch up, I'll put a pop-up on there. Really liking that. So again, just out of argument's sake, I've got some little 12 mil wafters, which looks to me like they're probably half the size of that pineapple banana. I'm going to get rid of that bait screw, and I'm going to put the little 12 mil. This is a 12 mil Nash Citrus. Number 8 hook, bait screw is gone. I'm back on the hair with a little 12 mil wafter. Let's see what it looks like. Looks like it's got even more buoyancy than the last one. Lesson learned. Now back with the bait screw. Okay, because there we go again. Number 8 hook, number 12 wafter on a combi link with the bait screw. There you go. Would you thought that a bait screw would have that much weight that it can counterbalance your presentation? I prefer that.
Yeah,
I'm
it looks
really
nice.
liking that. So there you go. Lesson learned right there. Now let's see if a number 4 hook is enough to balance out a 15 mil wafter. That's exactly the way it's supposed to sit. And that's exactly what I imagined. Because I must admit, it's been one of my number one baits through the years. And that's sitting just perfect. Don't need no extra counterweight. No, a little shot on there wouldn't hurt. Shot on the hook with a wafter, that's an option. But I don't think I'd go there. I'm liking the way that's sitting. Our last episode, we just did boilies. And I had forgotten all about my favorite baits. Is usually a single piece of corn. Artificial corn. So let's do this with this number 8 hook. Now I've never used my artificial corn with a bait screw. This will be the first time I see what happens. So again, bait screw, number 8 hook, piece of pop-up corn. Sitting pretty. So all my free offerings that I'm throwing in as chum, I expect them to sit like that, but even closer to the bottom. So that's on the bait screw. Let's get rid of the bait screw and put it on the hair. So this pop-up corn, well, that's what I'm getting at. It don't only come in pop-up. It also comes in slow sinking, which would be like a wafter. And I imagine it'll probably behave pretty close to the same. Now again, you could, so it has less buoyancy than the pop-up. And that's sitting proud. So if the fish is going to grab that, that hook is going to be ready to go onto the bottom lip. Inhale, fish on. That's the maize. So which is a bigger pop-up corn than your regular size corn, which would be like a niblet that you get out of your Green Giants can. Okay, and that's popping up just as well as the others. And again, if I'm chumming with particles, I'm chumming with field corn, that's what a fish sees on the bottom, but it sees my corn even closer to the bottom. Okay, I guess all that was missing is a slow sinking corn. So I've got a piece of slow sinking maize. Again, a little bigger than your slow sinking corn, but I'm thinking the buoyancy should be pretty close to the same. So in she goes. There you go. When I used the pop-up corn, my hook was sitting up a little more than that. My hook was sitting up like this. Now with the slow sinking, my hook is pretty well flush with the bottom. But again, it's still popped up from the bottom. There you go. It's not behaving much different than the pop-up corn. Oh, there you go. It's laying on the bottom. So if I had that on a number 6 hook or a number 8 hook, no problem. That would be sitting on the bottom. Number 8 hook balances it out. I'm liking it. We could put a tiger nut on there. When I first met my young buddy Gerald, he was using tiger nuts, which is something I've never really used much, tell you the truth. But let's put one on just for argument's sake, because I know there's a lot of people out there that love their tiger nuts. I'm thinking a tiger nut has no buoyancy whatsoever. So I'm figuring it's going to sit on the bottom. So here we go with a tiger nut. Just like I thought. Okay, that's fine. Now I've also seen people use a tiger nut with a little piece of corn topper. Or I've seen them use half a pop-up. Okay, so now, well, it's sitting up a little more. Not that much. Okay. Now the problem I have with that is when I catch a fish on that, was he going after a tiger nut or was he going after that little single piece of corn? I guess we'll never know, but as long as it works, I'll keep using it. So now we're on to the pop-ups. We've got some cute little 10 mil pop-ups here. These are DNA PBs, which stands for pineapple banana. Another one of my favorite flavors. So let's put it on a number 8 hook and see if the number 8 hook will be enough to counterbalance it. Floats big time. So we know what we got to do with that. Tiny little weight on the soft braid section. And there you go. That'll pop it up that high. Want to go lower? Move your weight all the way down to the bottom of the hook. There you go. Now that's sitting pretty. I don't mind the way that's sitting. Okay, something else I didn't really touch on is turning a pop-up into a wafter, which is just a matter of taking a bottom bait and put it underneath that little pop-up. Now that should give me a wafting presentation. There you go. That's sitting pretty. It's a little bigger of a presentation. I'm liking it. You see a lot of people using these snowman rigs. And that's what I like about mix matching bottom baits with pop-ups, bottom baits with a wafter. They sit closer to the bottom, which is closer to matching the hatch. Where's the 10 mil, 12 mil? Now, I already know a 12 mil pop-up is a number 8 hook is not going to balance it. So let's move up in hook size. I've got a number 6 hook here. Very much popped up. Okay, you know what I want to try now? I'll go back with the bait screw. Let's see if the bait screw is enough to counterbalance a pop-up. 12 mil pop-up. I wouldn't say that's balancing out one bit. So we know what we'd have to do with that. So we'd either add a bottom bait with that, which would make it a wafter, or again, we add our little counterweights. There you go. Number 1 drop, number 2 drop. So again, it's not sitting too bad. So that's with the number 6 hook. Now, if I wanted to balance that out, I can also use the shot on the hook. That's the big thing these days. I'm sure everybody has seen them Corda videos and seen Danny Fairbrass and Daryl Peck and everybody else soil their pants when they've noticed that how many times a fish spit out their rig when they thought they had the best rig ever. So I made some years ago and I used them a little bit. Now again, it's just my little clam shot. And I made a loop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that little loop on the hook and I'm going to push my clam shot to the end. And there you go, shot a hook. Now I'm sure that's going to balance out that pop-up. I could be wrong, that is a 12 miller. There you go, that balances out right nice. I'm liking it. So let's put a regular 15 mil. Now is that little shot going to be enough to balance that out? 15 mil pop-up with a shot on the hook. Now that's what I call critically balanced. But all that means is that if I put a little bigger shot on the hook, it'll balance out. But I'm going to take that out and I'm just going to nip that little piece of braid on that little shot because it seems like that's what's holding it up, is that little piece of braid. But now when it's doing that, you know, any kind of movement in the water is going to make that thing go all over the place. Yeah, you know what? I'd call that neutral buoyancy. Now, if I would have left that little shot on my little boom, it probably would balance it out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the stiff boom instead of the soft loop. Let's see how much of a difference that makes. And there you go. That's balancing out just nice.
Oh, the shot came off.
I just lost the shot. Okay. And I just noticed that's a no barb hook. So that could be why it's sliding off too. That's sitting pretty. Okay. 15 mil pop up, shot on the hook, and a little shot on the boom. And all of that on a number 6 hook. So to finish off, we're going to go back to a number 4. Okay, number 4 hook. Again, let's go with the little 10 mil. See if the number 4 hook will balance out a little 10 mil pop up. And it's also got a number 11 hook swivel, which is going to give me a little bit of counterweight right there. First test, there you go. The number 4 hook, along with that little number 11, number 12 swivel, counterbalances that little 10 mil pop up just fine, with no extra weight. I'm liking that. 1, 2, 3. You notice with the stiff boom, it's usually sitting away from my sinker, which is the idea of using a stiff boom. So I'm liking that. On to the number 12 pop-up. On number 4 hook, is that enough to counterbalance it? Not enough. And I got a feeling even if I had a bait screw on there, it would probably be the same weight as that number 12 swivel. The shot on the hook would balance that out. The shot on the soft boom would balance that out. Shot on the soft loop, same hook. That's how high it's going to sit. Now back to the shot on the hook. I got a feeling that would be just enough to balance that out. There we go. Shot on the hook balances out that little 12 miller just fine. I like the height it's sitting. It's sitting approximately the same height as a wafter would sit. Now if you got a little bit of moss, a little bit of weed, a little bit of silt on the bottom, I think that would be sitting just pretty. Now before I get too ahead of myself, I can't forget, again, my favorite bait, pop-up corn. Now I got a feeling I'm going to take the shot on the hook off, and I got a feeling a number 4 hook will be enough to counterbalance that single corn. And that's exactly what's happening. Oh, I'm sure that little number 12 hook swivel has got enough weight there to counteract that buoyancy also. So I guess all that's left is a 15 mil pop-up. So now that's without any other kind of counterweight. And I had a feeling that wouldn't be enough to balance that out. So let's go back with the shot on the hook. Shot on the hook, 15 mil pop-up, number 4 hook. Balances out just fine. I love the way that's sitting. There you go. I'm loving it. I think we pretty well covered the combi link. Our next episode, we're going to do the reverse combi. But I think we've taken enough of your time right now. I know this has been very enlightening for myself. Like I said, a lot of times my rig is sitting on the bottom and I'm double guessing it. How's it sit? From what I've learned here today, a lot of my wafters are sitting a lot higher than I pictured they would. So a little bit of counterweight on there wouldn't hurt. No, with just a bait screw, that's a counterweight. And that's exactly what a lot of these rigs needed just to balance them out, was a little bait screw. I'll be using that a lot more. Instead of using a micro swivel, ring swivel onto your hair or your slip D, you can go with a number 11 with a number 12 swivel. There you go. You got that little extra counterweight. I hope it was as enlightening as it was for myself. Thanks a lot for joining me. And until next time, tight line and hope you get lucky. No, I got to get it in the tank first.
Missed the cast.